Morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. So I'm going to start this morning by reading Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. So if we could all turn to Matthew chapter 5, verse 13 today. Yeah, everybody's sitting in the back today. I think I was throwing fire and brimstone on you guys. Nobody wants to sit up close to me. Today's message is pretty safe. It's about kindness. So Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is then good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So, for any of you who cook or are chefs in the house, there's a few things that you know and love about salt, right? Salt adds flavor or life-giving flavor to things that are otherwise flavorless or very bland. And it can be used to preserve perishable items. It can also, when you're koshering food, you can use it to draw out the blood from the meat, right? So it draws out impurities. Yeshua said to those who were seated during the Sermon on the Mount that they were the salt of the earth. And they were the substance that would bring life to an otherwise lifeless generation. That they were the individuals with the spirit and the knowledge to preserve a dying nation or to restore a dying nation because they had no true knowledge of the one true God whom they claimed to serve. They were the ones who had the ability to draw out the impurities from a nation that was infected by corrupt doctrine, and through the guidance of the Holy Spirit or the Ruach HaKodesh, they could restore it to something that was life-sustaining again, something that was consumable. So I'd like all of you who love the Lord to know that you are the salt of the earth. But Yahushua said, if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? Yeshua has set us here as ambassadors for his kingdom. And what's an ambassador? By definition, it's an accredited diplomat sent to a country as its official representative in a foreign place. Simplifying that, it's just a person who is a representative or a promoter of a specific activity. So as a disciple of Yeshua, you are an ambassador. You're his representative. You're the salt of the earth. But if you blend in with the rest of the world and you look and sound just like everybody else, how are you representing him? How are you being salt? How are you being light? How are you promoting the specified activities that indicate your faith in him or in God? How are you letting your light shine in the darkness when you yourself are clothing yourself with the darkness of the world? We can't be like everyone else. We can't look like everyone else because God has called us out to be different and to stand out in the crowd and to let our light shine in the darkness. What happens when somebody turns on a light after you've been sitting in the dark or you've been sleeping all night long? If somebody were to suddenly switch on the light switch, exactly, you got that light blindness, right? You squint your eyes, it hurts, it's uncomfortable, you don't like it. And what's the first thing out of your mouth? Turn off the light. Now, do you think the world's going to be happy or receptive of you when you start letting your light shine? Of course not. You're going to likely suffer for it. You're going to suffer persecution for it because it's bothersome to them. It hurts. It's uncomfortable because they see themselves now. They can see what they didn't see before. And that's when you know you're doing something right, if you're making people uncomfortable around you. So today I'd like to discuss how we can let our light shine and why we have to let our light shine. Last time I spoke about patience and how it affects not only us, but the people around us. And through our example, it also teaches our children, and it's a benefit to them to learn the value of patience also. And James teaches us how patience brings our faith to perfection. In James 1:4, he says, "Let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." So now I want to build on that. I want to add something to our patience. And like I said before, kindness is our topic for the day. Now, Mark Twain said that kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. And that's a profound statement, because whether you're saved or not, kindness is a gesture that everybody is able to recognize. And it's a gift that everybody, most everybody, is willing to receive. It's not very often that you'll find somebody who will turn away a genuine act of kindness or prevent you from doing a genuine act of kindness for them. But what exactly is kindness? It's goodwill, benevolence. It's a temper or disposition that delights in contributing to the happiness of others. It's exercised cheerfully in gratifying their wishes, supplying their wants, or alleviating their distress. Kindness always accomplishes love and is accomplished by and through love. Now, there's no one in the world, I can say, who would probably return your kindness with hate or malice or anything along that line. But kindness, again, act of goodwill or beneficence or benevolence, which promotes the happiness of others, welfare of others. It's charity, hospitality, the attention or the wants of others, seeing to those things. How often do we do that? How often do we see to the happiness of others? How often do we take out of our time to see that others are comfortable or their needs are met? If you take a look in the book of Acts, chapter 28, I want you to see an act of kindness that was performed for another by complete strangers. We're only going to read the first 2 verses out of there, because it'll paint a picture and bring back to memory what happened in Acts chapter 28. And verses 1 and 2, it says, "When they had escaped, they found out that the island was called Malta, and the natives showed us unusual kindness, for they kindled a fire and made us all welcome because of the rain that was falling and because of the cold." Now, this is Paul speaking in this chapter. At this point, he's already a prisoner and he's being carried away. And Paul points out in the book of Acts here just how he had just finished surviving a shipwreck. They are all on shore. Everybody survived. Now, the prisoners who were all on the ship, remember, there were other prisoners except for Paul. And I'm sure not all of them were as good-natured as he was, right? Yet, in spite of the appearance of this motley crew, we have all these messy soldiers, these hardened criminals, and Paul himself coming up, washing up on shore in the midst of a shipwreck. These people took them in out of the cold. They took them in out of the rain, and they provided them with shelter from the elements. They kindled a fire for them to make them warm. They met their needs in the time of their distress. Now, I'm not asking you to put yourself or your family in danger or anything like that, okay? But kindness does sometimes involve taking a risk. If you saw law enforcement officers stuck on the side of the road with criminal in cuffs or in shackles beside them, would that be the first people you stop to show kindness? Probably not. You probably just keep on driving by and think, oh, they'll be okay. Somebody else will come to get them, right? Another officer is on his way. But you know, when we see all these inmates, I work with them sometimes at work. I see inmates here and there now and then, especially when I worked in Etobicoke, because we were very close to the Mimico prison. And after talking with those guys, they're no different than you and me. The only difference between them and us is they got caught and we didn't. That's about it. They're regular people, just like us. Sometimes they might lose it or do something that's unacceptable, but they're just human beings. They're capable, and we're capable of doing anything just like they did. So don't let your biases or your fears prevent you from showing kindness to another in need. You never know who you may be entertaining. Another example of kindness in Scripture can be found in the book of Ruth. Now, Ruth's kindness to Naomi is monumental. After the death of Ruth's husband, Ruth really had no obligation to Naomi to do anything for her. But she leaves her native land. She leaves everything that she knows behind. And on top of that, when she comes to Israel, she works diligently to provide for herself and her mother-in-law. Now, unlike her sister Orpah, Ruth took a great risk out of a deep sense of compassion and love for her mother-in-law, Naomi, because moving to Israel would not be easy for her. And there's a number of reasons why. But Ruth continued to take her kindness even a step further from that, and she honored the laws of the kinsman redeemer. She honored the laws of the God of Israel by marrying Boaz, which was a man who was much older than herself. So she disregarded romance and youthful lust, right? A young woman, single, no kids. She would probably want a young, nice, strapping man, right? Of course. It's normal, right? I don't see anything wrong with that. But Ruth ignored all of that. And she stayed and she stuck and she obeyed the laws which made provision for her and her mother-in-law through the law of the kinsman redeemer. And her husband, the nearest kinsman, was responsible to redeem her and his associated property to continue on his lineage, continue on his name, so that he would have generations to speak of him in the future in Israel. And we can see evidence of the fact that Boaz was much older than her in Ruth chapter 3, verse 10, because Boaz says, "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, in that you did not go after younger men, whether poor or rich." Boaz himself was also kind enough to take the risk of his own social well-being by marrying Ruth, a woman who'd be scorned by almost everybody in Israel. The reason being, in Deuteronomy 23, verse 4, it says, "An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord." Ruth was a Moabitess. "Even to the 10th generation, none of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord forever. Because they did not meet you with bread and water on the road when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam the son of Beor from Pithor of Mesopotamia to curse you." Now this was enough of an excuse for any Torah believing or abiding person to exclude Ruth from the assembly, or to give her a hard time, to exclude her from the people altogether, and to discredit Boaz for marrying her. Excuse me. Now, although there was no direct command that prohibited their marriage, because there wasn't a command that said he couldn't marry a Moabite, Boaz, he still was willing to take a risk and a chance on her, because we know that the people would not be accepting of that because of the bad history between them and Moab that was written in the book of the Torah in Deuteronomy at that time. Now, Boaz, in regard or disregard for what people might think or do, what did he do? He still showed her kindness. He took her as his wife. He provided her with a son. He continued on the name of her husband for her. He redeemed her from poverty. He provided for her mother-in-law. That cost him, 1, social status, 2, dineros, right, money, 3, he would be excluded probably by many of his friends because he was a notable man in the land of Israel. He was able to call the elders together like that when he needed to, so you could see that Boaz was a man of reputation. But he put his reputation at risk to show kindness. Kindness always requires some form of sacrifice, and some gesture might cost us time, some might cost us energy, some might cost us financially. And there's many things that may seem to us sometimes to be financially out of our reach. But when God sees a willing heart, He's able to provide for that financial need. He's able to meet that goal for you and to accomplish more than you're ever able to do on your own. Remember, Yehoshua taught us that he is the vine and that we are the branches. And if we abide in him and he in us, then we will bear much fruit. So it's not on our own that we're bearing the fruit. It's through him, through his strength, through his ability. And here's a modern day example of a young girl who had a lofty dream to show kindness to others. And this is a bit of a long letter, but it's very interesting. It's actually a heart-touching letter. And it's from Tricia Crabtree. She was writing a letter about her daughter. I don't know if you've ever heard of Miss Crabtree at all, but it says here, as a dear parent, I couldn't help but pass along my daughter's story. My daughter, Taylor Marie Crabtree, at age 7, started a business called Tay-Bear Company. She makes and sells hand-painted hair clips at local stores. When she started her business, I assumed that she wanted extra spending money. But then she told me the purpose for her business. Taylor was going to buy teddy bears for children with cancer. She said the kids would probably have a lot of sadness in their lives, and she wanted them to have something special to hug and to hug them back. Taylor wanted them to know that even strangers care about them. She set her goal at 500 teddy bears. I thought it was too high of a goal, that this was a child and that she didn't really understand. I was the one that didn't understand. The media picked up on Taylor's project, and our community has embraced her efforts. But help has come from far beyond our little community. Taylor has received donations from strangers that live thousands of miles away, just from word of mouth. It has been rather like a chain letter from the heart. With her scribbly second-grade handwriting, she wrote each person with her appreciation and an update on her product. She has also expanded her project to include over 100 other children, including special needs kids, as helpers. Taylor wanted other kids to feel that they too were capable of helping others in their own way. Along the way, she also raised her goal to 700 teddy bears. What is truly amazing is that she has sold over 1,000 hair clips. She buys supplies over the internet. She has an email and letters going between herself and the marketing directors of several large companies, and they offer advice. She keeps financial records of all donations, supplies, sales, and a checking account activity. Yes, she has even a business account. She has arranged for corporate donations. The local supermarket even stuffs grocery bags with her flyers and has donation cans at their register. I have listed in amazement that she has discussed the huggability of the teddy bears with the vendors and later ordered 700 teddy bears after negotiating a lower price. This is a 7-year-old girl. I want you to remember this. But she has been very clear that none of this is about her, but about helping kids with cancer. Taylor has been touched by so many people on her journey, and while selling her clips, one woman began questioning her about the project. She was very suspicious about where the collected money was going. Taylor gladly talked on and on about the little steps she had taken to that point and about the children and cancer. Looking on, I noticed that the woman's suspicions had turned to sadness. She had become teary-eyed and stopped Taylor in mid-sentence. Then she leaned down and hugged Taylor from a place deep in her heart. Then she told Taylor that her 8-year-old son had just died 5 months before from cancer, and that he would have been very proud to have one of her teddy bears. Each day after selling, Taylor and her helpers talk about the people who had touched their hearts. Maybe it was the homeless man that had donated 11 cents and was surprised that when he was told that was plenty of money for buying a hair clip. He and Taylor stood together choosing just the right hair clip for his lady friend. Or maybe it was the young woman who was flying back home the next day to say goodbye for the last time to her father who was dying from cancer. Perhaps it was the man that drove all the way to his bank and back in order to buy a hair clip for his mom. He said that his dad had recently died from cancer. He wanted a child to have a teddy bear in his father's memory. With each hair clip or donation has come so many memories and a realization that when working toward a goal from your heart, the journey too is part of the experience. Taylor once told me, "How could people not see angels? They're everywhere." Once, on a recent trip to the cancer center, Taylor was giving an art class on making hair clips. She met so many very sick kids. On the drive home, she talked of Brianne, a 3-year-old girl who had one eye removed in order to reach a cancerous tumor in her brain. Taylor enjoyed meeting her and talked about Brianne's beautiful smile and personality. Taylor stopped talking for a moment and said, "I really hope she likes my bear." So there's many adults who can learn from the kindness of this one little child, myself included. And this one little act of kindness has touched the heart of probably thousands of other people. And of those who donated, those who helped out, those who received a teddy bear, those who just heard of her cause and were able to spread the word for her. But with all of those efforts combined, she was able to provide a teddy bear for a child who was sick to hug. It's a very simple act. Today, that young girl is now 26 years old, and she's reached or donated over 30,000 teddy bears to different kids, and has had 1,600 other children helping her in the process. So that just goes to show you how many people one thought of kindness can reach. What's stopping you? Yeshua taught us that you can identify a false prophet by their fruit. And that's in Matthew 7:15 through 20. And why is that? It's because their actions speak louder than their words. When you look at the actions of an individual, you can tell exactly what they're about. And guess what? Your actions speak louder than your words. And if you want to proclaim the gospel and spread the word of God to people, don't start preaching to them. Show them. Show them by your actions who you are and what you're about and what your God is about and what your faith is about. Because it's through your actions that you're going to win them over, not by what you say. Has anybody ever heard of the pineapple story? Yeah? Just one person? If you go and look up the pineapple story, you can find it on YouTube. It's actually very funny. And basically it was about a missionary who went out to spread the word of God in this remote place in New Guinea. All the natives would say of him, "Oh, you're such an angry man. You know, this angry missionary has come to us, and why are you so angry all the time?" And do you know why he was angry? Because all the natives kept stealing everything. Everything he owned, they stole it. They stole his glasses, they stole his pens, they stole his flashlight. They took everything. And he started growing pineapples in the backyard, and they would constantly be stealing his pineapples. And it was the only thing he could grow in his garden out there. And that's why it's called the pineapple story. Finally, after continually being angry over this all the time, there's a lot in between where I'm getting to right now, but he decided, you know what? I've had it. I'm giving up. I can't stop these people from stealing my pineapples. I'm giving the pineapples to God. It's God's pineapples now. That's it. It's over. So the people came to steal the pineapples, and they said, wait a minute. You know, things started happening in the village. Things started going wrong for them. And they couldn't figure out what it was. And then they noticed all of a sudden the missionary was happy, and they said to him, "Hey, you've become a Christian." The fact that they noticed, though, through his actions, that he was no longer angry, he was no longer fighting, he was now showing them love and kindness, they realized that, hey, he's become a Christian now. He's practicing what he said his God preaches. It wasn't through his words that they saw it, it was through his actions towards them. Long and short of the story is, when he told them they gave the pineapples to God, they were quite angry with him, and they realized that God was punishing them for stealing his pineapples. So they told him to take his pineapples back from God, that he made a mistake and he better go pray and ask God for his pineapples back. But His actions of love towards them after he was able to put aside the anger from the bad things that they were continuously doing to him, because they didn't see it as a bad thing. As far as they were concerned, he was privileged to be allowed to live among them. Putting aside all those things, he was able to finally show them love. He was able to finally show them the true attributes of the God that he was preaching. Whenever we hear a message, we might take notes. We might think, oh, that was great. I want to listen to it again and again and again. But until you start practicing it, it doesn't mean anything to you. Until you start doing the things that is spoken of in the Word, it means nothing. It speaks nothing to anybody unless it has some action behind it. At work, I know that experience is everything. I could have all the book knowledge in the world. It means nothing unless I have experienced it. So when I'm trained, I don't take notes. I just try to do that thing over and over and over again until it becomes a part of me, until I know it. And the Word is the same way. Until you practice it, until you do it over and over and over again, until you know it and it becomes a part of you, it won't be seen by others. It's through your actions of kindness, through your compassion, your generosity, your love, that people will see and hear your testimony. So, I want us to remember to add on top of our patience, remember to show kindness to others, to anyone. It could be the smallest act, but that act could speak huge volumes to that individual in their time of need. Shabbat Shalom.